The primary for the mayor of the city of New York on the Democratic liberal ticket is going to happen on Tuesday, the 22nd of June. And I don't cover a lot of New York stories. You very well know I don't. I have people listening to me in India. So New York is not always an important story unless it's a mega event like this. But I think I want to go and report this is because the next mayor of New York City is going to be a wreck and is going to wreck the place. I can tell you this, New York City is not going to be a place for, unless you're a part of the ATLAH. And let me just put it this way. New York City is already declining in terms of business auspices and new ventures and investments and real estate and a bunch of other things. New York City looks like the New York Knicks. You know one thing about the Knicks, you watch basketball. The other thing about the Knicks, they got eliminated the other day. New York City, the Knicks and New York City are on the same page. They're both on the decline. They're both uninteresting. But anyway, there's an event. This Eric Adams boy, right? He's a Hamite boy. I think he's straight too, by the way. He's running for mayor. He wants to be mayor. He's a former police officer. Ugliest sin, I'll tell you that. And he, former council member, I think he was. Then he was a borough president of Brooklyn. Now he wants to be mayor. Right? He's been running a pretty good race, and because he's a Hamite and everything, but he's a bit of a moderate. He's not, one of these, if you will, off the chain liberals or progressives. So yesterday he was holding a campaign in Brooklyn, and he got accosted by a group of, it's like a gang street fight out there yesterday. Mr. Engineer, I think we have a clip. So clip number one, it was like a street fight out there at a campaign event. With Eric Adams and those that oppose Eric Adams, those support Eric Adams. Run that clip, Mr. Engineer.
Eric! It was supposed to be a rebuttal to recent attacks.
I've been arrested. I've been beat. I've been shot at. I've been attempt to fire me in the police department. I have been called names. I have been booed.
Eric Adams held a press conference with supporters in downtown Brooklyn on Wednesday, unveiling this new ad.
We have one word for the desperate attacks against Eric Adams. Bullshit.
But his message was quickly disrupted.
Just get my message out. Like some people who want to disrupt us, it's about get my message out.
About a dozen protesters descended on the Adams event, attempting to shut it down. Shut it down they did. Quickly, the Adams team moved his press conference down the street, where the two groups faced off. Adams was making it clear to reporters he was not trying to silence the protest.
Listen, this is New York. You have different views. And if you focus on the small number of protesters and not the large number of people who are supporting me, listen, I disrupted press conferences in my day.
Even if it was a bit chaotic.
Don't let me look like I'm running from anybody.
The protesters are from a political action committee called Our City. The group has also protested Andrew Yang. They are trying to push a progressive candidate versus more moderate ones like Yang or Adams.
We're here to warn New Yorkers, don't rank Eric Adams. He has received a ton of money from millionaires and billionaires that are intent in privatizing our public education.
All of this is happening as these candidates are trying to make their closing arguments. Early voting is happening right now, and primary day is next Tuesday.
Eric, he's been shot at and been beaten, and he's a former police officer, so obviously, but he's really gotten much older. I remember, Eric Adams some years ago when he became a state senator, city council person, and in several years became the borough president of Brooklyn. I remember him. In fact, we were in a march together. There was a Jewish man that was beaten by the police in the Jewish homeless shelter out in Brooklyn. I think the 71st precinct, and I marched with some of the Jews against the police brutality, if you will. And Eric was in that march, but he didn't want to have anything to do with me. I didn't want to have anything to do with him either, quite frankly. But, the two moderate mayor candidates, Andrew Yang, who ran for president, as you know, is a billionaire businessman, and Eric Adams are being they're being protested. So this is not unusual for mayoral protesters where opposition will come up and try to shout you down. I've been around New York for a goodly number of years. I don't think I've ever seen. How did I miss this one? But that's what's going on now. That so if Adams becomes mayor, which he has a very good, well, there's a sleeper out there. This Maya Wiley woman who's been endorsed by Alexander Ocasio-Cortez and Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other progressives. She's gaining ground. And, there's this whole mantra about when New York going to have its first woman mayor. Because New York's they've had gay mayors like Ed Koch and Rudolph Giuliani. Yeah, Giuliani was gay too. At least I believe that he was. So the deal is when is it that they're going to have a woman mayor? And Maya Wiley is stepping up on that, and she's talking about defunding the police and taking the billions of dollars out of the police pockets and the precincts and the operation, and giving it to the community. I wonder who was the community, who was going to get some of that money. I know I ain't going to be one of them going to get. But this woman's talking about taking some, defunding the police officers, while at the same time, we got more crime going on in New York City than we've had in a very, very long time. The shootings and the killings and the robberies in New York are off the chain. And this woman, Maya Wiley, is running for mayor, talking about we're going to, defund the police. So, we're at a strange time, if you ask me, about what's going on in the city of New York. I'm not for either of these candidates, and we'll see what happens. But it looks like it's going to come down between these three, Andrew Yang. And he's a squeaky, he's a potentially, an Asian man. He's got plenty of money. Or Eric Adams. Adams looks to me like he's sick. And someone ran a campaign against him the other day. He doesn't live in Brooklyn. He got a girlfriend he lives with out in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And he bought a condo out there. Also, he has a brownstone in Brooklyn, and typical brownstone Brooklyn. Brownstone Brooklyn is typical. If you watch Spike Lee's joint called Do the Right Thing, brown, house in Brooklyn is just typical Bed-Stuy streets. He lives on one of those, or at least he has a house there. So we'll see how all this turns out. I'll be watching carefully on the 22nd as to who's going to win the primary, and then from there it'll be the general election in November. At any rate, everybody, I'm James David Manning. I'm the Lord's servant. Over the years, we have served more than 1 million meals to hungry bellies and hungry people here in the Harlem community. And I wanted you to be able to see that. I want you to see our involvement with youth, our summer youth programs, our courtyard being used as a place where children can be safe, guarded, and protected as they have their miniature swimming pools. And a safe place for children to eat that is guarded, that is protected by our own sense of security, and the wholesome and fresh meals that we serve. We wanted you to be able to see the mission of this church. And we've been doing this for years. Just recently, one of our members, more than a 30-year member of this church, but it hasn't, not one that that you would probably find as members of some other churches with their nose stuck up in the air. But her father is now close to death or very sick in the state of South Carolina. And I said to her, well, because she doesn't have money, I said, we will buy you a bus ticket, a round-trip bus or train ticket for you to travel to South Carolina to be with your father in this time of pandemic. There's very little funding around. There's sickness everywhere. And the thing that just blew me away was she said, as she was talking to Elizabeth, she said, but how are you going to do that, to pay for me a round-trip ticket to travel and give me expense money? And because Pastor Manning has to feed the children, he has to educate the children, he has to buy school supplies for them, he has to pick them up in the mornings and take them back, and then he's got the ministry he has to take care of, all the bills of running the church, of keeping a major house like our house operational, keep the lights on, how are you going to be able to do that? And she was almost reluctant to take the money because she felt that it would be better served by feeding the children. We gave it to her anyway. But we want you to know that we do a work in this community. There have been a lot of lies told on us. And it's almost unimaginable why some of the people that have lied on us. But I can tell you behind all of it is the LGBTQ community. Hallelujah. They don't want us to be successful, but we are, and we're going to continue to be successful in serving the meals that we're serving and serving the people that we are. And the LGBTQ community will not take us down. They are not going to take our church. Yet they've defamed us. They've written ugly newspaper articles about us. They've marched against us. They've done a whole lot of ugly things. But you see what we have done, and that's not even the half of our service to children and to the needy in terms of our homeless shelters and the things that we've done over the years. And we will continue. And probably the lies and the smears and the ugly newspaper articles and the wicked spirits and the so-called I ain't for the black man, that is not going to go away. I don't expect it to go away. I don't. But I do tell you this, that we will succeed against all of that, for God is with us, and I am his servant.